Smash Bros. Is known for its wonderful cast. There are the famous, the unknown, and the flat-out curveball inclusions. Making the roster for a new Smash Bros. Game sounds like the most stressful job in the world, honestly. But Masahiro Sakurai does well with it every single time. Of course, the final roster in each game isn't his original plan. There's always those who were just merely considered. Over the years, Sakurai has gone public talking about these characters he actually considered including in the game, and some are pretty crazy. So I'm here listing the top 5 characters who were considered for Smash Bros. Let's get into it. I think this is a rather well-known one. During Smash 4's development, a popular Gamatsu leak was talked about immensely. It predicted several characters correctly, like Wii Fit Trainer, Pac-Man, and Palutena. And the leak even mentioned Chorus Kids from the Rhythm Heaven series. Because of the data mine and Gamatsu leak, it was speculated that Chorus Kids were originally planned to be made playable. While Sakurai hasn't confirmed this, Chorus Kids have been talked about extensively for years in the community. What's fascinating to me about this is that the fighter would likely revolve around rhythm mechanics, which Smash Bros. Has never had before. Because of this, I've always been a supporter for any Rhythm Heaven rep, whether it be Karate Joe or Chorus Kids. And it'll also get me to play the games. I should probably do that sometime. Maybe in a future Smash Bros. Game, we'll see Rhythm Heaven have a representative. Until then, everyone just needs to listen to the music from that series! This one had me really confused and curious when I first heard about it. Ayumi Takabana, from the Detective Club series, that's never been released outside of Japan. In the Detective Club series, Ayumi is a detective and a main character. Unfortunately, this series never made it out of Japan, and it was only really relevant back in the 80s and 90s, and it hasn't seen a sequel since. She may have been relevant for Smash 64, but not so much for any later Smash Bros. Game. Sakurai originally considered her, but ultimately went against it because the game didn't have international appeal as it didn't release outside Japan. It's hinted that he wanted her over Takamaru and Mac Rider, both of which were heavily considered characters. It's a shame we didn't get a character like Ayumi. There aren't any characters in Smash that come from a visual novel background. Maybe if Detective Club gets rebooted, she will get a chance, but I think a certain character from another visual novel series may get there first. Back when Brawl first released, there were 7 characters found in the data of the game: Roy, Mewtwo, Dr. Mario, Dixie Kong, Toon Zelda, Tetra or Toon Sheik, and finally, Plusle and Minun. If I were to have any Generation 3 Pokemon represent Generation 3, I would like to see Plusle and Minun. I know they wouldn't be all that original because we've had Pikachu and Pichu, but what really piques my interest is that they'd seemingly fight together similar to Ice Climbers. This would have been really neat because we haven't had a second pair of characters as fighters. Unless you count Luma, but I feel like that's a different case. Like Chorus Kids, Sakurai hasn't confirmed Plusle and Minun being considered, but the data found in Brawl suggests that they were considered and perhaps originally planned. For years, I've been most skeptical about this considered character, and I wish Sakurai would release a statement about it. Maybe he will someday. Just imagine if we had Pikachu, Pichu, Plusle, and Minun all playable in Ultimate. That might be a little bit too much Pikachu. Here's a fun one if you don't know it. The British intelligence spy himself, James Bond. Originally from a best-selling book series and of course the film series James Bond. Bond later found his way into video games through the historic game adaptation of GoldenEye on the N64. I know this sounds like really hard to believe, but it is true. Sakurai said he actually considered James Bond for Smash Bros. Melee. Of course, this is ridiculous for a magnitude of reasons, but it's still fun to imagine seeing Bond duking out with Mario and Link. Sakurai went on the record and said that copyright would make it impossible for him to appear. On top of all of that, Sakurai didn't want to base the fighter off of Pierce Brosnan's version of Bond, so it wouldn't have been a direct pull from GoldenEye, which ultimately defeats the prime reason of representation. He also said that he didn't want guns in Smash Brothers, but, I mean, we got Solid Snake. Just imagine, both Bond and Snake existing in a game together. Maybe they could have had a crossover movie. On the Patriot's Secret Service. From Russia with Snake. Metal Gear Royale. Wait a minute. Who could be one of the most talked about considered characters in Smash history? None other than the Rareware icon themselves, Banjo Kazooie. Sakurai has talked about wanting Banjo Kazooie in Smash back in the Melee days. Of course, it never happened because of the copyright issues, and at the time of Melee, Rare was beginning to depart from Nintendo and move to Microsoft. Banjo has been a highly requested character since the beginning of Smash Brothers. He was a massive icon on the Nintendo 64, when his games received nothing but praise. Of course, Banjo is now in a more questionable position now that he's owned by Microsoft. But I do believe Banjo will eventually appear in Smash, one way or another, simply because Sakurai previously considered him, and the outcry for him to be added for many years. And besides, Nintendo and Microsoft are on good terms now. Even Phil Spencer said he'd be fine with Banjo joining Smash. Out of all the characters I listed, perhaps these two could actually become more than a considered character. Now this sounds more like a top 5 characters I want in Smash, compared to the top 5 considered characters in Smash. I just want Banjo in. Is that a crime? No. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments below your personal suggestions for fighters, even though I know you'll all say Goku. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.